It doesn't seem. Hey there, everybody. We're live from Truck World. We hope you all can hear us. We're kind of makeshifting some of the things together today with you, Drew.
Some of the tech
together for you guys to bring you a little bit of a live view of Truck World today, 2024 at the International Center in Mississauga. So with me, I've got my man, Drew Pearson from Crossdock Systems.
Hey, Dan.
Hey, buddy. So again, if you guys can't hear us, just let us know. We'll be monitoring this stuff. But we are bringing you I don't even have the new ones in here because I do everything pre-recorded, buddy. So I was going to play the video. Yes. So what we're coming to today is we're going to be talking to people about their life in logistics and, how they navigate their personal life with their business life and what it means to be in logistics. So I've known Drew for many years now. Actually, Drew
quite some time.
Actually, you know what? And it's amazing how when we start to look at the years over the last little while, I say to my wife all the time, that was like a year and a half ago. She's like, honey, no, man, it was like 5 years ago when this happened. And it was crazy. So I guess we're going on probably 6 years now that we've known each other. If I think back, 2018 is when we met.
Yeah.
So yeah, well,
and I started following you right away. And,
did you?
You always said, things I believe and share a lot of the similar experiences through your career journey that I have also got to experience. And
I think I think in this industry, we all share the same experiences. And I think we think we're so siloed,
sure.
Right? And then we're not. And I remember when I first got into it, I was always asking people what is the secret here? And they're like, man, they're keeping it so close to their chest, like as if they win, we don't. You know what I mean? Or if we win, they don't. Like there was, so thank you for saying that, brother. So I want to dive right into it because I think this is going to be this interview is going to be really cool. So pre-logistics and then Drew today.
Pre-logistics. Wow. No, not really, because I think in the sales world that we live in, it really has to come down to the nature in which you will either have success in your career. Has to be really coming from your DNA and your characteristics as a person. So I would say, sure, maybe my experiences have shaped how I would suggest something or come to a customer with an idea of previous experiences or how I can storytell over the years. But I would say we're both very similar in the ability that we just want to really help others. We want them to understand how much we believe in ourselves and in them, and we just want to show them, hey, let me help you, let me take you to the next level. And whether that being in business, in your relationships through life, friendships in life, it's always just about helping others. And I recognize that in you as well as myself. And I think if you're going to be successful in sales, you kind of have to have that in you. It's not what you can do for us. It's what we can do for you. And it doesn't have to be in business. It's just that's our DNA. That's our characteristics. Would you agree?
I agree. And here's my big question for you on that is what brought you to that realization in business? Because the one thing you did not mention in that entire thing was commission. The one thing you did not mention in that entire thing was money in any which way, shape, or form. And as you know, that's in my DNA is how do we serve at the highest level? So I guess my first big question to you is then, with that understanding, how did you come to it? How did you come to realize, okay, in business, if I just help the customer achieve X, Y, Z, I mean, obviously you win. You're in it for call a spade a spade, right? We're in it for a reason. But I think in that overlining foundation, there's a hierarchy, right? And I remember one time sitting with an individual and he said, well, why are you in this business? And I said, well, when I move pharmaceuticals, my vision is not the movement of pharmaceuticals. It's facilitating the health of the individual that receives it. When I move auto parts, my perspective is not moving auto parts. It's I'm part of the overall goal completion of that individual who gets to buy their first car. And when they click the lock button, they turn around with this huge smile on their face. Because I mean, I'm sure you can feel that, right? When you get your first vehicle, like when you get your first brand new vehicle and you drive it off the lot and you get home and you go beep beep and you turn around and you're like, Yeah, man,
This
I
kick
did
ass.
this,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that was my belief when I moved Port Stone. It wasn't the facilitation of getting it from A to B. It was that person that just spent $20,000 on their brand new kitchen coming home and seeing those countertops in like their best form ever. So how did that?
And being a part of that. And I think money is a result of doing business. We all have jobs. We're all trying to pay our bills. We all have families to raise. But ultimately, I think we do it to better our communities, the things that we believe in, helping others. And yeah, sure, money is a result of doing business, yes. But we get into business for the reasons of not just the money part of it, right? It's and once you figure that part out, it really is your why as a company, right? Why you got into business. So sure, money is a
when you
result
say
of it,
why
but
as a company, do you mean like you operate a company inside the foundation of your other company? So like Drew's sales and Drew's customer, you work it as if you're the CEO of a corporation as opposed to just a salesperson.
totally. I totally own it as if it's my own business, but in a way, I am just further expanding the same values that our company also has. So the story you told yesterday where that company you work for didn't share the same values as you did, and therefore
Yes.
it wasn't going to work out. I have been very, very lucky, and I'm very thankful to have found Crossock because it does align with my values and my core beliefs as a business person and in sales. And I don't think I would have maybe succeeded the same way if it wasn't the same,
Yep.
I wouldn't believe in them, and therefore I just wouldn't be able to. I'll never be able to sell something I don't believe in, and that's really what it comes into. So,
It's interesting you say that because yesterday on the podcast I talked about, just that 3 feet from gold aspect. And when I did that course, Nicole Glenn was the only one. Nicole from Canada was the only one that said no. I would spend literally. It's kind of like the Einstein quote, right? Where somebody said to Einstein, if you had 5 hours to cut down a tree, what would you do first? He said, well, I'd sharpen my axe for 4 of the 5. And, I think of that quote all the time when you look at it and say those 4 hours is the right company. And if you have the right company that has the right structure, that has the right beliefs, that you all align in the same belief pattern, I think it creates an entirely different level of success in your people.
totally.
Because you're all working toward that same vision, right? It's like in a relationship. If your spouse has this belief of one thing and you have this belief, you're never going to meet up, right?
Sure.
And I remember it vividly as I a new father, and as we were learning how to parent, my wife and I were learning how to parent. Things would happen, and I would because my upbringing was X, her upbringing was Y, right? And sometimes, I'm hugely guilty of it. My wife was never, because my wife's a communicator. I'm a lose my marbles kind of guy. So I found what happened was I was trying to parent one way, she was trying to parent another way, right? And so that's the evolution of that relationship. But in business, I think it's a lot harder because as a salesperson, as a logistics individual in the business, there's so many more frameworks outside of your control that if you're not aligned, you conflict with those frameworks. Does it make sense?
You know what? It just won't be a great fit ultimately, right? And therefore might not be a long-term and longevity relationship that you'll be able to, manage. And
yes,
and it just totally.
That makes sense. It makes sense. Okay, so let's get into it then. So let's play in the sandbox here a bit. What are some of the things that you've learned throughout your career in this industry that have changed your perspective?
I would have to say that logistics as a whole and transportation as a whole in the supply chain has such a deep impact in a company's ability to create and increase their profits, their revenues. And ultimately, I think a lot of companies look at transportation as being the bill they have to pay that cuts into their margins. What they should really be thinking of is, you know what? So does my competition. They have to pay that same bill.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can do my logistics more effectively, I'll give you an example. You go into a big retail store like a Walmart chain, right? And you look at who's at the very top and who's on the bottom, who's at the eye line, the eyesight, right? Often those are great leads because they're often the companies that have failed in the Walmart logistics chain, and they're getting scored negatively, and that also impacts their brand and impacts their sales. So, I bring up Walmart because I think we do an excellent job servicing the 3DCs here in Canada, but I can definitely, I've had so many conversations with companies where they went the lowest cost option and not the most cost effective option. And the difference between the two, in some cases, have resulted in millions of dollars lost.
Yep.
Ruined brands, ruined relationships, all the hard things it is to be a salesperson, and the relationships you build to be torn down because, ultimately a bad decision was made and someone decided to save $50 and roll the dice on, someone that they didn't really have complete faith in, but
Yep.
and it just doesn't go well. So
I got a big question for you on that, because I think you just dropped one of the biggest nuggets of gold, but I don't know if anyone caught it.
okay.
And so I'm going to go back to the beginning of that statement where you said, when you go into a Walmart, you see things that are eye level. The things that are up and below are the ones you contact, because you can help them get to that middle level.
Sure.
And I don't know if y'all caught this. And sorry, I'm looking at this camera. We should be looking at that camera. I don't know if y'all caught that, but if you did, good on you. If you didn't, pay attention right now, because you see, normally you'd go in and so you just taught me a huge thing, because I go into like Home Depot and I just look at stuff I like to use, right? And I look at that and I don't think to look who's up, who's below, who's making the cut, who's not making the cut. Kind of like those best-selling books at Barnes and Noble and stuff are at the front. But if you really want to get in, you get to the guys at the back who need the help to get to the front. So I love that. I love that. And for all y'all that got that, that's a strategy to go with and start implementing. Okay. So with that, then you talk about another gold nugget you dropped that I hope y'all heard as well, is that if one person has it, the other person has it, right? So everybody's logistics is pretty much, for lack of a better term, and I don't know if you tell me if you agree with this, we're all in the same range when it comes to what we're paying.
Sure.
We're all using the same people. We're all doing the same lane. You know what I mean? So how do you, in your sales, in the conversations you have, help the audience understand how you navigate that conversation, if at all?
A lot of discovery work and understanding. So usually my first call to a company after I've done a bit of discovery and homework on them is I talk to the salespeople first. Typically, I need to know what they stand to lose if this is not done right.
Can I interject a question in there?
Sure.
How much on average do you research a company before you call?
I research every company, but I know now in my 11 and a half years of doing it, I can research a company and do it all within 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. I don't spend a ton of time because I know where to look and I know the information I'm looking for. I'm looking up their competitors. I can do that all effectively in a short amount of time.
Okay.
Before the first original call
yes.
to find out more about them.
Yeah.
Just a quick discussion.
So for all you out there, and Drew just hit a point here where I'm going to do a little bit of shameless promotion. So inside Bridger, we just released our new AI tools, which actually takes that 10, 15 minutes of research and brings it down to under 30 seconds. So on average, our users of Bridger save 8.67 hours a week researching companies, which is over 10 weeks of productivity a year. Little shameless plug. Sorry.
And might I add, when you say that, what I have discovered in life in general, time is the most valuable thing we have in life. It is the only thing we cannot buy with our money. And that is the most important thing I believe in life and then obviously how you spend that time in your life.
Yes.
So you're giving back something that's even more valuable than financial. You're giving someone back time.
I'm glad you brought that up, and let's dive a little bit into that, because here's what I see is happening, and it's something that I think needs to change right now for all of you salespeople out there. We find these tools like AI, like the creation of Zapier, where one thing happens, another thing happens. Like you can literally set it up where when you get an email, this happens, this happened, this happens. A video is created and gets sent out, and you have to do nothing, right? And I think there's huge pros to it, but I also think there's huge cons for all of you out there. So let's take Bridger, for example, right? So Bridger, on average, with this one tool, saves 8.67 hours a week. If you're going to use that 8.67 hours a week to just screw the pooch and fuck the dog, you're sorry, yeah, that was, you know what I mean.
You're not helping yourself buy more time for later.
Exactly. You're kind of, in my opinion, you're wasting time, and that's the worst thing you can do. So, utilizing some of these tools and some of these strategies in your sales, I look at it as it's a way to double and triple my output.
Sure.
Right. Because if you look at just the 10 something hours of 10 weeks, and that's full 44-hour work weeks, that one tool saving people, if you take the 8.67 hours a week on average.
Sure.
So what are you going to do with that extra 10 full weeks of productivity a year? Are you going to use it for vacation, or are you going to sit down and say, okay, I close on average a customer a month, and on average, each customer is worth $5,000 a month. So just with this one tool, I generated an extra $10,000 a month in GP, right? That's the math I do in my head when it comes to productivity. So like, we're sitting here recording this, and I've said it a couple of times now, full transparency. I have emails going out to prospects to introduce myself to them. I'm sitting here looking at you, sitting with Drew, having a conversation. So I'm multiplying my time while I'm working. And this isn't some spray and pray. These are targeted leads, targeted lists, targeted conversations. But I use technology to my advantage so I can increase my output. All of you that are watching this podcast right now, all of you are going to watch it after. I wouldn't be able to do this podcast if I didn't have the tools to help me multiply my time. So how is it that you're using technology today to multiply your time?
Definitely use it, through RCM software. Obviously, keeping yourself organized that way. Scheduling, using things like Calendly, Boomerang, those kind of tools to definitely help you out. Personally, when it comes to the chat GTP stuff, at the beginning of it, super cool. And I embrace it.
Kind of lost its flair though.
But
right?
I personally don't use it. I believe that I'm discrediting myself and my customer by doing that, because if I don't show them that I truly mean it, and I have to truly mean it inside, then it's not going to be a long-term relationship.
Yep.
And it's not really going to bring the true discovery that I'm looking for.
Yep.
It is super cool, don't get me wrong, but it's not for me, and there is a lot of that tech that I do a lot of stuff now through programs through Sick Kids, and they're really up on their tech and the AI, and it is amazing what they're going to be able to do and use that to help.
The algorithms that it can produce is insane when it comes to healthcare.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And that part of it, I'm totally behind.
Yeah.
Me personally, once again, as a salesperson, I'm still old school. I believe in a phone call conversation over an email. I do it all, of course, but I'll always try and get someone on the phone or meet them in person. Obviously, that doesn't always happen, but it's just that's my nature. I like the connections.
Yeah.
That to me, that is, logistics it's been an awesome experience, and being in the transportation world is incredible, because from the day you're born to the day, unfortunately, you pass, you're surrounded by transportation.
Yep.
The tools at the hospital to the tools they have at the funeral home.
360 right here is trucking.
Everything. Our socks that we have. Everything comes from transportation, and it gives you a different perspective once you're in it.
Yes.
And like you said yesterday, it's such a big industry, but it's very for the real, true professionals in this industry, whether you're a truck driver, you're a warehouse worker, you're a sales rep for a freight brokerage,
management executive, dispatchers, carrier sales, whatever.
Everyone. It is a very small industry. But my favorite part about this career that I chose is the connections I get to have with everyone. Yes. And to me, that is the most important part. And, your story yesterday of saving the customer the $2 million and them getting a bonus out of it, and now their family got to, embrace.
Yeah, just got goosebumps.
Right.
You saying it. Yeah.
But when you said that, it brought back multiple stories I have in life where I can't think of them now, but at the time I was like, oh yeah, I know that. I know that feeling, and it's why you keep coming back And it's why you try to really sell yourself, because all you want is the next person to have that same experience.
So with that, you brought up a very good point. And with that, I think there comes a big question. And I think it's probably a question most people are asking is, how do you keep that motivation with everything going on in the market? You know, we had a conversation, and without revealing too much detail, you know, what resonated with you yesterday was the fact that the market's down. And you see your numbers from where you were to where you are now. It's down. We won't get into specifics because that's your, but everything's down, and that entire, like, so many different salespeople are coming, like, my motivation's crushed, my personal belief is crushed, like all of these things are getting crushed. So how does Drew keep that perspective of, oh my God, that feeling for the client at the forefront in order to really up his game every day?
I'll take 100 no's to get to the yes, and the feeling you get from that yes, or when you actually really connect with someone and it's a great fit, it's that dopamine that you said that hits, and you're like, I'm glued to this. This was I'm addicted now to that, so I will go through 100 no's.
So how do you keep that motivation in the 100 no's? Like, do you even consciously tell yourself, okay, I'm like almost halfway there, something's going to happen sooner? Is it just like innate in you that it just kind of evolves?
So going back to the first question you asked me, which was, how did I get into this business? What was I doing before? And I have to bring that up now because I didn't answer you then. Started off working with seniors. Obviously, early in my life, I was sales for Future Shop. I really wanted to be working with seniors. I just loved the connections I had and being friends with them. From there, I couldn't handle, unfortunately, the end part of the friendship, and it got to me. So from there, I was young, and I started at Minax, which was a call center, and I was calling off on behalf of TD Canada Trust. Okay. So I apologize to all the people I called during dinner out there, but
at least he admits it, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
From there, I went to another call center, Pet Health Inc., where I was doing, taking 120 phone calls a day for almost 2 years straight. And that
was customer service?
Customer service, but with sales attached. So we're taking a customer service and then upsell. Yeah. And just all of those phone calls really helped prepare me for getting into the next career, which I'm in and have been for 11 and a half years.
I like that.
So I always think some of the toughest people on the phone for logistics kind of need that experience of a call center where you're going to be told to F off and the worst things ever constantly, and you got to just learn to shake it off.
You just kind of and move on to the next call.
But I've always been like that, I've always handled whether, it was someone, didn't happen very often, but if I got bullied or someone made fun, I was a chubby kid and whatever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
people would say things, and
high school kids are brutal,
even teachers, because I was not I didn't love the academics that school taught at the beginning, and I just learned how to deflect it, take the positives that they told me, and just understand how to handle those and navigate those conversations better for the next time that I see it's going to happen. And that's, unfortunately, it is part of the role. You have to hear 100 no's before you get the yes.
So you just kind of tell yourself as you hear the no's, you're like, oh well, another one. Okay, kind of like subconsciously, do you find, and then maybe it's more of a thought that you have to think through, but like subconsciously, do you find yourself just kind of saying that to yourself? Or
if I qualified the lead properly, which now I do at
number one thing you got to do,
yeah. So once they're qualified and they still say no, I just take it as it's a no today, but not no forever.
Got it.
So I just tell myself, it's not the right time for them. If everything's going great and they don't want to make that change, I don't want to make that change for them until they're ready. Yeah. So I just have to circle back around with them. Even though it's a no today, it's not a no forever. And I've proven that over time with my calls and experience and follow-ups, right?
Yes.
Is that it was a no and it should almost sometimes be a red flag if you get a yes right away and it's immediate. Sometimes.
Well, I think if you get a yes right away and it's immediate, it's all about rates. right? And so Derek just said something here. So Derek is, I don't know if you know Derek Staples, great guy, love him. Derek, you're the man.
Hey, Derek.
Derek and I go way back, like to the early days when we first started in sales. And one thing I'll tell you about Derek is he is the master at when somebody says no, he just like brush and moves on. And he said because he started in telemarketing. So he goes, Dan, I heard so many no's, like people telling me to F off and da-da-da. And it was that one person that said yes, which was all the big deal, right? The big rage. And, you know, that was one thing that I took from him early in my career because I had a real hard time with no.
Sure.
Because I believed, and this I think is a detriment to some salespeople, but also a really good anchoring point, is I believe so much in what I do that I can't understand how people don't see it and don't want to work with me. And that to me, over anything, like I can't tell you how many times I'm hung up the phone and went, no, pick it back up again, just because I'm like, listen, I'm probably not explaining it properly. I might be using too much techno babble. I might be going into too many technical terms.
But I'm your guy.
But I'm your guy. Like I'm the one that will truly care about. Like I don't care who you're dealing with. They don't care as much as I do. And for me, that was a huge detriment at the beginning of my career because I would get down when people would say no, and it would impact me for like 30, 40 minutes. I'd just be like, oh, okay, I got to reset my phone. And then all of a sudden you're going to like, you know, at that point, zero productivity, in my opinion, throughout the day.
Sure. Sometimes when those calls do happen, I have to get up, walk away, come back to it, clear your mind, clear your focus, get ready for the next call. But I'm the exact same way. I just want you to work with me so badly because I care, and I care because all the people that I know that are supporting me and supporting the customers, they care just as much.
Yes.
And it's that team effort where it's like, I just want you to experience what a bunch of other customers have experienced and what I promise to deliver. And just like you said, it's frustrating because you're like, please, like, you're with the wrong person. It's not me. Trust me. You
Are
need
they
to
doing
work
this? Are
with
they
me.
doing that? Are they doing this? Like, no, come on, you don't understand. Like it's.
But that's why when I go on the call, I do ask the customers, are you being taken care of? Are they looking out for your company? Are they looking out for you as a person who has a job and probably a family? Are they understanding that this is a long-term relationship and not short gains? Are they doing what's right when something goes wrong? Because it's transportation, things happen, but are they standing by that? And if they check all those boxes, it's just not the right time for us to connect. I don't want to take away that experience of another Drew or another Dan working with them. But if they didn't select all of those boxes and there isn't something checked in those boxes, then yeah, I definitely want to circle back with you because you're not getting that Drew Pearson or the Dan Deigan experience or the cross-talk experience.
Yeah.
Right?
So I got my last question for you because I think this is a really powerful way to end. Do you directly ask them or do you ask questions that circumvent that direct answer looking for the truth? And the reason I ask that is because I've asked countless thousands of traffic managers if they believe their logistics supplier is a resource. And the answer is always yes. And then we start doing business and I realize the answer is really no. Right? It's yes, because why wouldn't I? I want to get you in my corner. I want to see what you can bring to the table that somebody else can't bring to the table. And then at that point, it's okay, I got you. Now it's all about how I do business. So do you like come right in and go right for the forehead, or do you kind of ask questions that would more direct the answer where you can interpret it as, okay, that's what they believe in or they don't?
You can find out a lot about a company's values and beliefs just through their about page, I find.
Do you not find that is just text to show the world?
Sometimes, but that's when I do my start call with the sales reps because I find that just like us, a successful salesperson has to believe and have the same fundamentals as that business's core values. So I often find that they are just a representation of that company and what they believe in. So when you start with the salesperson, you ask them truly, what happens when things go wrong? Do you get the phone call from the sales rep from the trucking company say, hey, we're going to take care of that for you. We understand this happened. You matter to us. Your paycheck matters to us. yes, the logistics person that I'm going to ultimately be working with is probably not the salesperson, the person who's making those decisions. But it matters through the entire business cycle. And I start with the salesperson because it starts and ends with them.
I believe that.
And it impacts every different piece of the business, from the accounting, from the transportation standpoint, from their customers and how they're perceived. So I really try and get that full picture, and that's why I start with the salesperson first and not the transportation logistics manager, because I need to know what's on the table if I do something wrong. And then I can talk to transportation person and tell them how I'm going to avoid everything that's ever going to go wrong and be there for you and be there in your corner.
I love that. And I also find in a lot of companies, and I'm talking even as far up as multi-billion-dollar corporations, the salesperson is actually the one in charge. And, just for all of you watching and listening, just take that what Drew said into account. Like, he starts with the salesperson, not even the traffic manager. And here's the thing. Salespeople love to talk.
Sure.
So
sure. They should if they're a good salesperson.
And you can get so much information out of a salesperson. Arm yourself with that. Then go speak to the individuals, or even, hey, do you mind making a connection? Here's my beliefs. Here's what I believe in. And yeah, awesome. Brother.
And then it's a warm call too, right? And that always helps. And the salesperson usually has something important to say. It's taken seriously, right? So
love that.
Yeah.
Y'all got the gold. Y'all got the gold in that today. I hope so. Drew, thanks for being here, brother.
Buddy.
And I'm looking forward to hanging out with you today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
To everybody watching and listening, remember, go out there and make every call educational, crush your sales, and do what Drew says. Start with the salespeople.